Gamers, today we mourn the shutdown of the Wii U and 3DS eShop. RIP the Wii U eShop. November 18th, 2012 to March 27th, 2023. RIP the 3DS eShop. March 2011 to March 27th, 2023. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I want to take this opportunity to criticize Nintendo for not doing everything they can to properly preserve their games. And I'm not talking about just 3DS games, I'm talking about any of their games in general. I'm also going to talk about why emulation is probably going to be the only way to play these games now, and for some of them, emulation has been the only way to play them for a while. I want to make it clear that I don't expect Nintendo to keep the Wii U and 3DS eShops up forever, because that is ridiculous and unrealistic. To make it more clear, with the Wii U and 3DS eShops closing, it is going to be a massive hit to game preservation because now you no longer have any way of buying these games digitally or physically, and Nintendo has also stopped making Wii U's and 3DS's. Before somebody mentions buying the physical versions of these games online, the majority of people selling legacy games or games that aren't being sold anymore online are putting insanely high price tags on them, so nobody's going to buy them. Another bad thing that I don't see a lot of people mention is that if you buy something online, there is no guarantee that you are even going to get the item that you paid for because they could just be scamming you for your money. Something else that I know people are going to bring up is, did you see what the completionist did? Yeah, I saw what he did. He bought almost every Wii U and 3DS game and sent it all to the Video Game History Foundation. I applaud him for what he did, and I recommend you check out that video. However, let's be honest, all that stuff is going to be sitting in storage, never to be touched again. When I talk about game preservation, I'm not looking for copies of the stuff to sit in storage. I'm looking for a way for the games to still be officially bought to own. So about the Wii U games, it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of Wii U exclusives left to port to the Switch, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about this since there isn't much to talk about. However, I'll give the two most obvious examples of Wii U exclusives that people want to see ported to the Switch: Zelda Wind Waker HD and Zelda Twilight Princess HD. Moving on to 3DS games, there are plenty of games in this library that people would like to see ported to the Switch, such as Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D, Zelda Majora's Mask 3D, Super Mario 3D Land, the Mario and Luigi games, and Metroid Samus Returns, which is a remake of Metroid 2 Return of Samus. I don't want to spend forever just listing examples, so I'm going to move on to the next thing. However, I think the list I gave was pretty good, despite it being very short. So it's clear that there are games from the 3DS and Wii U library that people would like to see get ported to the Switch. However, there are games from other consoles that people would like to see get ported to the Switch. For example, Game Boy games. However, it seems like Nintendo prefers to rent them to you through their trash online service rather than sell them to you, which sucks. And Nintendo has confirmed that they are not going to be selling the legacy games individually. Now I'm going to criticize other things about the legacy games thing from Nintendo Switch Online. I'll start with the library first. A vast majority of the legacy games available through Nintendo Switch Online is shovelware that nobody has ever heard of before, which doesn't make it very enticing to rent at all, even if we exclude the fact that online play normally doesn't function on the Switch. Another massive issue is that they drip feed the legacy content, and saying that they drip feed it is giving them too much credit because the rate at which they release legacy games is the same as putting one drop of water in a desert once a year. I imagine you were expecting me to show you a timeline of the rate at which it gets updated, but unfortunately, nobody has made a timeline, so I'm just going to need you to take me at my word for that. The question that I've seen a lot of people bring up is why don't they bring Virtual Console to the Switch? They would already have a base to start out with rather than starting from scratch. And my best guess as to why is because on Virtual Console you could buy these games to own for like $10 each, which is a fair price, and it isn't as profitable as renting them. As a side note, Nintendo has confirmed that they won't be bringing Virtual Console to the Switch, and that fact crushes my soul a bit. I know this video has been super negative so far, and I know I'll get asked if Nintendo has done anything positive with their legacy games, and this is excluding the somewhat controversial Wii U ports, and the answer is yes. There is a recent example of Nintendo doing something good with their legacy game library, which is Metroid Prime Remastered. I'm going to be honest and say that I don't really know much about Metroid Prime 1 or any of the other Metroid games in general, but to my understanding, this is an actual remaster and not just a port, with the most significant improvement being the upgraded aiming controls. So that's cool that there's something positive to mention. Also, I don't think it's far-fetched to say that because Retro Studios is the one who developed the game is the reason why it's an actual remaster and not just a port. Another positive example that I just thought of is the Zelda Link's Awakening remake for the Switch. I know this example might seem like an oddball example, but if Nintendo wanted to remake their legacy content, I would be cool with that, and I would imagine that the remakes would be better than ports or remasters. For those of you that don't know, the game originally came out on the OG Game Boy, which doesn't have color, it's just black and white. Then it got remastered for the Game Boy Color, adding color to the game. Then it got remade for the Switch. I have played it and I can say that it's a good game. The next thing I'm going to briefly talk about is the availability of Nintendo's old games and emulation. Before we get into the topic, I want to make it clear that emulation software isn't illegal, although it is true you can download a ROM off the internet and put it into the emulation software. If the emulator developers don't condone piracy and don't provide ROMs, then it is 100% legal. I also want to mention that I don't condone downloading ROMs off the internet, aka piracy. If Nintendo doesn't sell their old games or sell the ones that people want and leave their online service in trash state, then people are just going to pirate the games and play them on emulators. As of today, playing the games on emulators is going to give them a better experience than playing them through Nintendo's online service. Pirating also gives you more options, such as you get to choose what game you want to play, you get to play it whenever you want, and you get to keep it. Before I end off the video, I want to throw an olive branch out there and say that I hope Nintendo does sell their old games individually. I also hope they increase the rate at which they update the library, and I hope they add Virtual Console to the Switch. And as just another possibility, if they don't want to port the old games, it would be nice if they remade them, but the likelihood of any of this happening is almost impossible. That's about it. See ya.